I'm Valyi, and this is the Healthcare Marketing Mindset Rehab. It's a space where we discuss how changing your mindset and putting processes in place can help you be a better marketer with better outcomes. And some of the tips and tricks I provide and some of my guests provide can help you be a better executive or entrepreneur. So let's begin. Welcome. We have a great guest today. It's Mindy Anderson. I met her on a great fractional networking event and we started chatting and I thought, wow, she's got a lot of great information. Let's share it with you all. So I'd like to just dive in. Welcome, Mindy.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you do and why you love it?
I am a fractional CMO. I've been driving the global go-to market strategy for huge companies like Citi and EY for the past 22 years. And the past year, a little more, I've been a fractional CMO where I now have the ability to transform the marketing strategy for different companies. And so you get to do that, sometimes 2, 3, 5 days a week, the company's needs, but ultimately you understand what the gaps are within the company. You understand how to align the marketing strategy to the overarching business strategy. And then I look at the annual goals, and then we work backwards. And that's what we always do with marketing, right? We always look
Right.
at when do I need to go live, or everything is kind of working backwards and then making the micro steps that will allow you to hit those goals. And as a goal-oriented person, I like to use a framework. Some people have heard of it. It's called EOS. EOS is an amazing milestone trajectory that allows the companies to look at the annual goals and then break them up into quarterly goals. And then it's a very measurable and accountable way for all parties involved within the company to embrace and ensure that everybody sees the North Star and is doing something in their area of expertise to move forward. And I think it's a very collective way to also keep the culture glued together. So I'm a big fan of
Yeah,
somebody who likes
I
to
worked.
achieve.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with EOS, and you're right. It does create a framework, especially if the organization doesn't have a framework. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of EOS as well for organizations that need that structure. People think marketing is more about the art and the fluff, but really strategic marketers really focus on structure and meeting goals. So you're a fractional CMO, you have your own business. What was your journey like going from corporate to being a fractional?
Well, I mean, I think when we all get out of college, a lot of us just think that corporate America is the answer and the only answer. And I think the world has evolved in, especially the past 5 years. And I think some people have been newer to the fractional space than I have been. I started out, working for a huge financial services company, Solomon Smith Barney, and then it became Citi Investment Management. And and then I kind of got tired of working the 120 hours a week in New York City and needed some balance in my life. And that's when I started working for EY, Big Four, still a lot of hours, but they offered the option to also work remote. And so my campaigns then were very much globalized, where more than 186 countries would take my campaign, translate it, localize it, make it very meaningful and diverse to that particular way of life in that culture. So it's very the dynamic in a lot of these global environments is also very fast paced. Even though there are so many employees, people have this idea that you have an army of people doing all of this work for you. But in actuality, it kind of sets you up as a person to be a micro entrepreneur, I would say. At EY, I was given the opportunity to handle small budgets, huge budgets up to millions of dollars, and then really manage agencies. So you're managing web producers to make sure your web content and your SEO, your SEM is correct. And then you're also managing programmatic, display, pay-per-click, and all of the other, features of today's digital marketing ways of going to market. So there's so many aspects of demand generation and revenue generation and working with business development and working with the salespeople. And then, today I feel like in the past 10 years, everybody's figuring out how do you ensure that multi-touch attribution of, okay, I brought in these marketing qualified leads. What does that pass off look like? So there's definitely been, I think, a journey for a lot of marketing people to not just look at how creative your content is and how pretty it looks and how great does your website feel to your target audience. It's more of like, is the right target audience coming to the website? Are the right people opening up your emails? And what is their journey? Are they clicking through to the website, or are they contacting somebody at the company? So what is that process from going from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead? And do you have the glue to convert them, or are they dropping off? And, you know, because it's so layered with lead generation and all the touch points that people have today on their mobile devices and on their desktop, and there's things that are accounted for and there's things that are not accounted for. And I think marketing strategy leaders and fractional CMOs, we always have our work cut out for us, because not only do we handle all of those parts, we also need to now show this is how many leads we brought in, this is how many leads we converted. And so I think with marketing and sales, you have to really create a true alignment where that relationship is cemented and it feels honest, and like you both have each other's backs for the creation of overarching business success. So what does that look like when you break that down into systems? And that's also why I like the EOS system, because the accountability of your rocks and what you're working on becomes very evident with putting that into a spreadsheet or putting that into whatever system of truth that you agree to. So you're able to see, are you on target to hit those profitable targets and revenue targets, or are you off track? And if you're off track, what will you do to course correct? And then for also fractional CMOs, many of the companies I work for, they also want me to build out a high performance marketing team. And then you manage a whole set of people, and they could be full-time people, they could be contractors. And so the area of management that you need to be able to have under your belt, I think, is something that is very time consuming, but you also need to be a really good inclusive leader so that people also bring their best selves to work, which is also a little more challenging for some people who are not used to working remote. I have worked remote for the past 15 years, having worked for EY, but that's not to say everybody else has either. So
Right.
I also try to understand what is someone else's working style and then match it with mine, and then agree on a cadence. What does that look like? Do we communicate on email? Do we have Slack? Do we have a once a week point? So nobody wants to feel like they're not being heard. So I also feel like that's a great way to match your communication style with the people that you hire. And it's the same thing that heads of marketing or fractional CMOs also need to do with the CEO. So you're managing up, you're managing down, you're managing sideways, and it's a lot of multitasking. But if you're an organized person and you enjoy the challenge of handling a lot as a leader and expressing that high level strategy of what marketing is doing to create value for that company with the team that you've brought on, it's very fulfilling. And so as a fractional CMO, I find it really fulfilling that I'm able to help more than one company at the same time to hit their revenue goals and to hit their brand goals. And that all kind of comes down to how much are you in line with understanding the buyer's journey, the buyer pain points right now, and is your marketing addressing those pain points right now? So are you keeping close tabs on what's going on with your clients right now, or what's going on with your prospects right now? And there's a great book called You Ask, We Answer that kind of speaks to that. It's all about creating content marketing that addresses the questions that your prospects and clients are continuously asking. So instead of recreating the wheel, you create thought leadership that is the very theme that they are looking for, and they're putting into Google search or however they're looking for it on your website. And if they can't find it, then they're going to go to your competitor potentially, right? So the best thing you can do is really take it upon yourself and say, I'm going to address those prospect questions. I'm going to address my client questions and turn that into pieces of content.
Yeah, you're saying a lot of stuff I love to hear, as a passionate marketer in the strategic place, helping organizations. I love it. Are you working, are you a certified EOS, what do they call those?
Implementer.
Yes. Or do you just bring EOS with you, or is it organizations that already have EOS that you're helping them, um, work better with it?
I wouldn't say I'm a certified implementer. I had the opportunity as being an interim CMO in 2022 for a company to get to join all of the classes and to use the methodology to use and then they give you a really large notebook which includes all of
I
the ways
have
that
it.
you
It's
keep
huge.
track of the deliverables with your rocks, and it's really something what I feel is repeatable. So because I embraced it as a very goal oriented person and a very results oriented person, it's something that is kind of glued in my mind because I saw how effective it was. And I think because I always say, if you want to hold me accountable, you certainly can, because that's why I'm here. But I like that. I kind of like that, I have, it's all documented. And so, you want to hire a strong player. And I think that for any company, they want strong players, especially right now with the economy not being great. So you have to have people who are going to help you win. And what does that look like when you break that down into deliverables? So those rocks, deliverables, however you want to phrase that. I think some companies use EOS and some are so grateful that I brought it up to them and showed them how to incorporate this process, because after they're done taking their business to the next level with my high level marketing strategy, they can still reuse this process that I brought into the fold for them. And so that's my way of also helping companies. I don't want to just help them for the time that I'm helping them with the project or hit those results. I want to help them for the long term. So even after I'm gone, they can still talk about how Mindy brought in the EOS methodology.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love it. So when we first chatted, we talked a lot about mindset, and we both are focused on, well, that's even the name, part of the name of my podcast, right? The Healthcare Marketing Mindset Rehab, because I work in the healthcare B2B space. And mindset means a lot of things to a lot of people, but how do you incorporate that into what you do, or do you?
I do. I think that as people mature too, it becomes very clear that you have to be true to yourself and you have to be like your own glue before you start your own day. So what does that mean? I mean, for me, I think it starts off with an intentional thought of how am I going to start my day, or how am I going to be prepared for my day in a way that shows that I'm ready to lead, I'm ready to guide, I'm ready to be authentic and to drive results. So there's a lot of parts of my personality that I always have this internal competition with myself that I want to be better today than I was yesterday. So what does that really mean? So it means, I think, getting rid of the clutter. And it's the same kind of thing with marketing. It's so easy for all of us to get cluttered with such a noisy marketplace. So it's kind of, you have to focus on really the areas that matter, that will show you that you made progress by Friday. And so you take those larger goals and make them into bite size, just like EOS. And so I think as a person, it makes me feel like it's a nice systematic small step way of inching towards your goals. And I think it's also kind of starts with, using keywords for yourself, maybe like, and I think everyone kind of has to know, are you a visual person? Are you someone who likes to listen to a video or meditate in the morning? What is your way of kind of clearing your mind and being ready to take on this very noisy world that we're in, and to also get rid of things that may feel negative, because we are being bombarded with a lot of negative things today. So how do you clear your mind and be ready to take on the world in a way where you can break through, cut through that noise and make an impact? So I think it's like personally and professionally, especially working remote, you have to be able to combine those things. And I feel like people always talk about work-life balance. I feel like today there's a lot of blending that has happened because you're working from home a lot. And so your mindset at home has to also be clear and you have to be accountable for yourself, right? So if you're accountable for yourself, then you can be accountable for the companies that you're working for. And then it's just a carry through. It just all kind of blends together. And so I always think about women who lead. I always think about women who break the glass ceiling. I always think about, and today I'm also thinking about, like a lot of people, multiple streams of income, and how do I recreate my brain to think differently? Because like a lot of the books about creating multiple streams of income are all talking about how we were not born, even in college, if you went to college and took financial classes or business classes, we were not born to understand how to create income flows in areas of our lives that would make it easier on us. So right now I'm in a personal transformation as well as I think a business transformation. And so what I do is when I read these books, I try to incorporate these principles into other areas of my life. So when I think of, okay, I'd like to have multiple streams of income, but how do I also help companies create multiple streams of income?
Yeah.
So it's a carry through in every direction, because karmically, we're all kind of connected, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's such an important aspect you mentioned about not only helping yourself, but when you come to the day and think about how I'm going to help others and your clients or your, basically your clients and your customers and so on, and how do you bring your authentic self and your strongest self to make sure that they're meeting their goals and that you're meeting your goals, because nothing's worse than working and being miserable. You have to find that way to, say to yourself, I love helping clients find their brand and expand their brand and get their message right and connect to the customers and so on and so forth. So I love that whole thought process, so thank you for that. Do
Sure.
you have any tips or insights that you would share to with marketers? And I think you've already mentioned a few, but if you had some tips for a marketer starting out in the space that could improve their clients experiences or outcome, what if you had to say two things for them to do now? Marketing is huge and there's a lot of things you have to do. But if you had to just give two pieces of information, what would that be?
I would say stay on top of the trends because and digital practices today, you have to be timely. And that means you have to have an insatiable desire to learn. And you want to constantly know that part of marketing is to test, learn, and iterate. And that's what I always talk about. And so if people think that you have the answer, that's not true. All of us are testing, learning, and iterating because everything is changing so fast. So what might have worked last week may not work this week. And so always be thirsty to learn, always be thirsty to try, always be thirsty to be, I would say, to innovate, So and I would say to spend a little time thinking about how you can cut through the noise. Because what happens with all of these companies right now is that we're getting more and more bombarded in every single sector. So in order for you to cut through the noise and be an effective marketer, you have to be able to also cut through that noise and say, how can I help this company stand out? And so it takes a little bit of thought. And if you're just going full speed ahead, which a lot of us are, then there is no time to kind of reflect on what does that mean? How do I make this company stand out? How do I take their brand and differentiate it? Because a lot of these companies, they may not have the answer on when you ask them, well, what is your differentiation? They may not know that. And so as a marketing leader, that's an opportunity for you to help them declare that. And so that takes a little bit of listening, researching, competitive analysis, and I would say really talking to people who have worked in the company for a long time, who who feel the brand, who understand the brand, who've watched it evolve and know the direction that they want the brand to be headed in. And that's kind of what you can do. So once you kind of have that information in hand, you can then best describe that brand from a marketing standpoint on the website, on the leave behind brochures, at any event. All those the materials are so important because it represents the face of the brand. And so what I notice is there's sometimes a disconnect between what internal people believe their brand represents versus external people. So as marketing people, we're tasked oftentimes with declaring what that brand looks, feels like, and what it represents to the buyer.
Yeah, clarity. And I like that idea of contemplating and sitting back and thinking, because a lot of times you have to find time to take the information that you spend all this time gathering, sit on it for a minute, and kind of chew on it to see how you can then, exactly what you're saying, cut through the noise. So this was great information. Now, I always ask people what favorite marketing book they like and why. And you said you ask and we answer. That was one book. And I think Women Who Lead. Do you have another book?
This is a book I started to read right now. It's called Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen. And the reason why I'm reading this right now is to retrain my brain on how to think about making money because we weren't taught that. And our families didn't teach it to us. No college has been teaching that. And I think that in order for people to really thrive today, we have to think out of the box and we have to think differently. And so part of that means being open to change. And so reading some books may give you that clarity on what do you need to do as a person to feel like you have a foothold on your financial life.
Yeah, I think that's also great. I like the concept of retraining your brain because sometimes when you do that, sometimes an idea comes that was probably right in front of your face, but you may not have noticed it. And suddenly you can see things differently and suddenly implement things differently. And then there's magic happening. The universe hears you and gives you a sign, and okay, I'm going this way, or I'm going to help this company this way. So Mindy, this was great. I really enjoyed the conversation. You're very thoughtful, and I love your passion for marketing and how you're helping organizations with your fractional services. So, why don't you share your website and how people can contact you if, in fact, they want to connect with Mindy?
I would love that. So my website is ibreathemarketing.net and my email address is ibreathemarketing. So just like you're breathing, ibreathemarketing@gmail.com.
Thanks again, Mindy. That was a great, great conversation. I loved the key points that you shared and your passion for strategic marketing and being a fractional CMO. Again, I'm Kat Valyi. I'm the CEO of CV Strategic Marketing Solutions, where I help healthcare organizations and busy executives in the B2B healthcare space get the strategy that they need in place in order to have better outcomes. I use my unique approach, my 3D strategic marketing solution, to help you define, design, and deploy the perfect solution to help you win. So if you're looking for more information, visit me at www.cvstrategicmarketing.com. Thanks so much, and until next time.